Welcome to the Diva Life Show, where music meets fashion, culture meets travel, and we explore the stories of extraordinary artists and entrepreneurs. I'm your host and resident diva, Heather Podesta. Today on the show, you are in for a special treat because we have not one, but two amazing artist entrepreneurs on the show. My friend and acclaimed pianist and musical coach, James Myers, and the international operatic, music theater, and theater director, Johnathon Pape. I am so excited to have this dynamic duo here. Just wait until you hear their incredible stories. James Myers is an extraordinary keyboardist, music coach, lecturer, and a world traveler who's collaborated with some of the biggest artist luminaries of our time, including Renée Fleming, Brewer and John Adams. James has also shared the stage with operatic greats like Frederica von Stade and Thomas Hampson. James serves as lecturer and coach and pianist with the Boston Lyric Opera and has designed multimedia exhibition lectures at the Museum of Fine Arts of Boston and the Public Library in Boston. James was assistant professor of opera and voice at the Boston Conservatory at Berkeley, where his students went on to win contracts in renowned musical organizations and houses throughout the world. James studied at the Hochschule für Musik und Theater Hannover in Germany through a Rotary Scholarship and earned degrees with distinction from the University of Colorado at Boulder and the Eastman School of Music. Whew! What a resume, but we're not done there, folks. Johnathon Pape has directed opera, musical theater, and theater throughout the United States and abroad. Some of his incredible directing highlights include the world premiere of Gräfelchen by Lucas Foss for the New York City Opera and the U.S. premiere of Daniel Catan's La Hija de Rappaccini for the San Diego Opera. Additional performances were with the National Theater of Israel, the Tulsa Opera, Skylight in Milwaukee, and the Portland Opera. Most recently, he's co-written and directed Carmen Inside Out, a one-woman version of the opera Carmen that he created with mezzo-soprano Kristen Chavez, which has played in the US, the UK, France, and Japan, and is currently being adapted for film. He and Chavez have also written Living the Dream, building a sustainable career in the performing arts. Johnathon has graced the faculty of the Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York, and was also the director of opera studies at Boston Conservatory from 2011 to 2021, where in addition to directing many productions, he revised the graduate curriculum to focus on the skills necessary for students to prepare to enter today's competitive opera industry. Oh, fellas, come on. Oh, that's so amazing. It's just incredible to have you here. Thank you so much for coming.
And can I just say how beautifully you pronounced Musik Hochschule für Theater?
Of course.
Brava.
At a recent international competition I was at, they slaughtered it.
Oh, my goodness. Well,
Brava.
I did, like you, I have been abroad a couple of times. So. But it's so great to have you here, and you're both so accomplished, and I know that you care so much about the performing arts. And also from reading your bios that you care about the next generations that are coming up because they are the future of the arts.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, teaching was something that I did very early in my career and then got tenured and promoted and resigned the next day and moved to New York City to pursue my professional directing career and then came back to it after having been in the business and survived in the business for many years, and it was so rich bringing all of that to the students who are going to be entering that world now. So yeah, teaching is something that I think we both value a lot. Yeah,
absolutely.
And I was saying before we started that you guys are so warm and fun, which is such a huge value, and sincere and optimistic, and I say this with all the love in my heart, have been around for a little while, right?
Yes.
What are you getting at?
As have I. Been around the planet, the sun a few times. But you're so joyful, and the performing arts and opera can be really competitive. There can be a lot of not so wonderful things about it, and you've just kept your spirit so bright. So how do you think that you've been able to maintain that, and how do you pass along that spirit of optimism to your students?
I have a couple thoughts, right?
I'm sure you do.
First of all,
my surprise.
I studied with some renowned people. I will not name everybody, but some were very old school professors who believed in the fear factor in education, meaning you had to take 2 or 3 Advil after every lesson, otherwise you weren't going to make it down the hallway. Now, the musical integrity was there, the inspiration, and when these individuals passed on, I cried. I missed them.
Yeah.
But I also learned that was not the pedagogy I wished to follow.
Yeah.
Rather, to lift, to encourage, have some humor. Have some joy.
Yeah.
It's not that we can't get realistic from time to time. I will be brutally honest. If they keep mispronouncing the German 3 or 4 times in a row, I will say something. But it doesn't have to be yelling and screaming. And the other is, I think, through the decades, the young people today, I think, are freer. I think there's great energy and hope, vitality. Their voices have changed, both that as the individual and in the musical world, I think. So that the approach has changed a bit.
Well, and that joy factor is something that I think is essential to an artist. Yes, the standards of your technique and the way you execute all the artistic choices that you make, but there has to be something inside you that you need to communicate. But there also has to be that thing that gives you joy so that you can bring us joy. Right. And if we beat that out of you, it doesn't really serve anyone.
Yeah.
It doesn't serve the art form, it doesn't serve the artist, it doesn't serve the audience. So trying to keep the rigor and the fun and the joy, it's a very hard business, and if you don't have that joy, you might as well do something where you can make a lot more money than this. But if this is something you can't not do because of that joy factor, then you have to feed the joy factor as well.
Yeah, I totally relate to that as a singer. I mean, when I was coming up, I would have, I was like, do I have to give blood? What do I have to do?
Yes, you do.
to keep taking voice lessons and to pursue, because it was absolutely my passion, but also going through the conservatory system was brutal. And I think it affected my technique because I just kept shutting down and shutting down and shutting down. And for me, it's so fun to hear you talk about the younger singers being freer, because I feel like that's something that I discovered much later in life. Like our concert that we did was a combination of cabaret and opera, and it was so fun, which I never would have considered doing, back in my 20s when I was a serious singer.
And the audience just adored it. They were just with us the whole time.
Yeah, and I adored it. I loved the pieces that I picked, and I think that's so important to find your voice, but your voice as an artist and what you want to bring.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and I love reading about Carmen Inside Out. So tell us a little bit more about that, because as a singer, I was fascinated by it's a different kind of a project. It sounds like it's a
Kristen Chavez, who is my collaborator on that project, has sung Carmen all over the world.
Yeah.
And we had worked together on Dead Man Walking, actually, was when we first worked together. And she had this idea, and she called me up and said, I have this crazy idea that I need you to talk me out of. I would like to do a one-woman version of Carmen. What do you think? Just tell me no. And I said, well, actually, no, I think that's a really great idea. And I think this is how we could do it. So we co-wrote it.
That's wonderful.
And the reason for doing this is she has been in so many productions of Carmen where Carmen is filtered through the male lens, through a patriarchal kind of lens. And it's about, the stereotypes that we see her as. And what if she's not that? What if she's not the slut, the man-eater, the manipulator, all of those things? What if she's a woman who has tasted her own personal agency and isn't going to give that up.
Yeah.
What if she is from a marginalized culture, from the Romani culture, and she lives differently?
Yeah.
And what if that's okay? And we project those things on her. So we are approaching her from the inside out. So this is done through her lens, if you will. And it is a one-woman show, live, but then during COVID, we started the process, which is a long and arduous process, of turning it into a film.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
So I love that that's a collaboration, a director and a singer, and you've recently done a collaboration, pianist and jazz artist, right?
Yes.
So can both of you talk about the landscape for young artists, old artists, everybody in between, of the importance of collaboration? And we're going to talk about your book, about actually creating a life in the arts, and about the importance of collaboration and kind of what is available to people now. I love both of your perspectives.
I mean, as we've touched on before, the issues in some universities and some conservatories, maybe the majority, is that they may not have time in all the curriculum to address the fundamentals of what you're going to do to market yourself. And so that's a niche that has to be fulfilled. And it's ever more important because of the changing landscape since COVID. And I can say personally, regarding many organizations with whom I've worked for years, their funds are cut, projects are slashed. So what do you do then to pay the bills, right? So you have to get more creative. And I think that takes a tremendous amount of energy and joy to uncover what else you can do. I think there are a lot of, at least speaking for pianists, that are sort of in this little box. This is what the school told me I should do. And this is the expectation out there. But that's not the reality, necessarily. Most of them, I think, are going to have to find something new.
And, the process of collaborating often, and I think this has happened to pianists a lot, was you're here to service me. I'm the singer and I'm the important one. And that's not how you create art.
No.
You do it together. You're bringing your art, the singer's bringing their art, the director, the whoever, including the behind the scenes people, the designers, the technicians, all of that. And learning the importance of that interplay between fellow artists, valuing each other, feeding off of each other in a good way, to let what you bring enhance what I bring.
Right.
And then together we bring something better. So that is really key. And I think we've made great strides in the profession to value collaboration more than it used to be. But it is really key to creating vital art that values all parties. And also, one of the things you're collaborating with is the audience. Not to pander to them, but to know that that is the other end of that communication cycle. And if they're not there, we don't have anything.
And I would add to that what you just said about all parties. I couldn't agree more. And this goes on all sides, in that there are pianists that don't really care for singers. That don't really like vocal repertoire.
What?
Imagine.
Stop the press.
And we have colleagues, and I won't name names, but I've had singers come to me and say, this is what happened. Let's do something different. And I don't think anyone should be working with singers unless there is a sense of passion, at least interest in the repertoire. So all sides have to come together. And it also means getting out of the arrogance that, at least what I experienced in some of the conservatories, that look down on cabaret, that look down on musical theater, and said that somehow that wasn't as good as the other major works coming from Europe that we were studying. I say it all has a voice, and like I mentioned, my father was a big band musician, and so I grew up hearing everything. And the only kind of music I cannot stand is heavy metal where they're screaming about horrible things. That I will not do, but everything else.
I would like to see that.
But we're thankfully looking at all different kinds of music, all different kinds of cultural experience, that it doesn't have to just be European. It doesn't have to be what we thought of as highbrow or classical or worthy somehow, all of those other things are just as worthy and have the value, and those are stories and voices that need to be brought forward.
And the one that comes to mind that you had introduced me to was Thumbprint, which is written by females about female experience in South Asia.
Yeah, it's an opera based on the life of Mukhtar Mai, who was a woman in Pakistan who was in an honor rape, was gang raped, and instead of killing herself as she was supposed to do, she brought her attackers to trial and won, the first in history, and used the proceeds to start a school for girls.
Wow.
This is a true story,
Yeah.
and she is a global peace activist and very important figure in women's rights now.
Yeah. I love that you're talking about stories too, and I love that, and I agree with you as an artist and as an audience member, not just as a singer, but love it or hate it, good or bad, social media is not going anywhere. It's here to stay, and I think that is a great equalizer because the middleman is gone. You don't have to go through an agent or an auditioner or an opera house to reach your audience.
Right.
It's you and your iPhone, right? Like it's just you and your camera, and you can start to build your audience, and we can look at like, I don't even know what they call it anymore, if it's American Idol or America's Got Talent or whatever, but you see all these people doing crossover things.
Right.
You see
Right.
pop singers singing opera, you see, opera singers singing, more pop sing. Like I think that there's more, I think in some ways, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in some ways there's even more opportunity. When I was going to the conservatory, and I've talked about this on the show before, and with Dana Varga, that there's like this track. You go to the conservatory, you get a young artist program, or not, like most people don't. Then you get the big competition, then you're set, you have Met Young Artist Program and Santa Fe, and then you start your career. But that's not how it happens for most people.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really narrow. And I feel like it's, the money part of it, and I want to talk about that next, but the money part of it needs to be worked out. But I think that the opportunity and people are more open. They're more open to opera, to anything, because they're seeing more.
And, I think in society, we've opened our minds. There's not just one way to do something anymore in so many different fields. Certainly in the arts, there's not just one path to a career. And that's really important for people to understand as they're trying to build a career.
Yes, so this is the book, Living the Dream, Building a Sustainable Career in the Performing Arts. So tell us about the book, and how does one build a sustainable career in the arts?
The way this book came about, in my years of teaching and working in the business, I noticed that, we spend lots of time and money and energy on training talent, and then you get your degree and it's time to leave the conservatory and it's bye, fly,
And then out of the nest they crawl.
yeah. And it's a hard world to enter without any skills, without any awareness of what you're getting into or how to navigate that. And so I devised this course at Boston Conservatory called The Business of the Opera Business, and taught that for several years. My collaborator on the book, Kirsten Chavez, who is also the Carmen Inside Out collaborator, when she was getting her master's degree in voice at the Eastman School of Music, she also did the coursework for becoming a financial planner.
Oh, good for her.
But then her career took off, and that all went to the side until COVID. And all of her performance gigs were canceled, and she went back and she got certified. And so now she is also realizing that that's a part of who she is, and a part of what she brings, whether it's on stage or with a financial client. And we all have reasons we do what we do. And what we're trying to do through the book is help people understand that There are many ways to have a career. And in fact, one of the things we talk about now is a portfolio career, that it's not just that one narrow pathway, it's other art forms, and it's also other ways that you express who you are inside, your mission, the thing that makes you want to sing or dance or act or play the piano or whatever. But you can express that in lots and lots of different ways. Understanding what sets you apart from the pack, understanding what the competitive landscape is, understanding what it is you're going to face and how to make smart choices in terms of business planning, of branding, of understanding who all the players are, and finding support and accountability systems, and then knowing how to survive in that world. You're on the road as a performing artist a lot. Away from friends, away from family, away from support systems. And it's easier now with phones and social media and all kinds of things like that. But still, there's a lot that you have to navigate that has nothing to do with how talented you are or how well developed that talent is. It has to do with your resilience. It has to do with your understanding of how to make your business work. Your career is your business. And approaching it as such. So the book is really designed to give practical tools, not just to opera singers, but to actors, to dancers, to any person that pursues a life in the arts, and really focus on that part that is not trained.
I wanted to add a very personal experience that I had with being highly creative with what you have, and that is in 2022, when one of the organizations that I work with regularly in Europe essentially folded, and I thought, what am I going to do summer of 2023? And I went to Eleni Strategos, one of our graduates at Boston Conservatory, who we first met at our program in Valencia, the Summer Opera Intensive, that Johnathon founded and led beautifully in Spain. In any case, I went to Eleni and I said, what if we did a project that focused on Greek classical music? How much of this do we study? Then we got thinking, well, why don't we have it do it in Athens, where she's got a lot of family members, and then let's draw in some local traditional Greek instrumentalists. And then we thought, what about living female composers of Greek music?
Yes.
And then we went to her teacher, Becky Folsom, who was fully supportive, and we found funding privately, partly through the Greek American community. So we ended up doing a wonderful performance at St. Paul's Anglican right in Plaka in the center of Athens in May of last year. And the audience was deeply moved. It was a very unique experience.
Yeah, that's
and
wonderful.
Almost everyone was speaking Greek except about 10 of us. But I mean, you start with nothing and you say, well, what is there in front of me? Who do I know? What would I like to do?
I love that.
And I know it's easier said than done. It does take a lot of energy. And she and I were good at handing off to each other the responsibility, and we had very supportive community in that. But things happen. Yeah. And I don't think I'd ever would have done that if that other event hadn't folded.
I love that. It comes back to collaboration.
Absolutely.
And I love it. It's so creative. And I think sometimes people think, I've got to do this other thing because I can't do opera. And it's so, like, I would go to that. I would go to that. Like, there's so many opportunities. It's like, exactly what you said. What is in front of you? And I would add, what would be fun?
Yeah.
What would be fun for me to do? Like the Carmen thing, or what's fun or what's meaningful? What's really calling me? What's important to me? Yeah. And then, it's what when you're a writer, right? And they say write about what you know.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Use the gifts that are in front of you.
And right now, Dana Varga and I are exploring an opportunity in China for next summer, because we've worked with so many singers from China. throughout the years, and she has strong contacts there.
Yeah, that's
we're
neat.
not sure we'll be able to get full funding through their government, but then we're kind of negotiating and see what creative options we may have. But that would be for some time in China to work at several of the conservatories and to have a translator and facilitator have a real cultural experience together.
I love that. I love that. And, you know, it's as much as we have all these opportunities, I still think, and we were just talking about this before, the star still draws the crowd. We were in Paris. We were in Paris, and we went to see Thomas Hampson and Renée Fleming. I got both of their autographs. I stood in line to get their autographs, and we saw Nixon in China at the Paris Opera.
Oh, that's one of my favorites.
And the woman, we were waiting in line. We were there just to go on travel with our kid, but the woman in front of me waiting for Renee's signature for her autograph said, I flew to Paris to see this. That's why she came.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right? That's the kind, like, that's what star power does. Like, that's, you know, you can't neglect it. So my question to you guys is, you've worked with amazing people. What do you think, what are the qualities, you know, this is the Diva Life Show. So what are the qualities, just saying, that you see in people that have that do get to that level? What do you see?
So it's charisma, but it can't just be charisma or it will flame out. There has to be some real solid stuff underneath the charisma to support it. There has to be talent. There also has to be heart. There has to be that need to say something, to bring something of themselves through their art, and they get joy from it. And part of what they bring to their audience is the joy of seeing them perform and being part of that experience. It's not just the performer's experience, it's also the audience member's experience.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, it's symbiotic.
Yeah.
It's symbiotic.
And the two examples that run to my mind are Nadine Sierra and Renée Fleming. With Renée, I was backstage before one of the, I worked on the indie songs with her at the Denver Performing Arts Center. So not even classical. But I'm backstage and she comes up to me and just starts chit-chatting a little bit. She didn't have to do that. Then she asks, so what do you do here? And it's like, oh my God, the queen herself is speaking to me. But she was genuine, she was authentic, she was kind and open.
Nice.
She's interested in people. It's not a show. And with Nadine Sierra as well, I mean, she's a little bit younger in the profession, but huge experience now in that she was so flexible and fun. Talk about joy. And I worked with her at Boston Lyric Opera when she sang Gilda for the zillionth time. But then she asked me to work with her preparing for something she was doing abroad next. I just had so much fun with her.
Oh, that word just keeps coming up over and over again. Oh my gosh. And this has been so much fun having you guys here. Thank you so much for coming.
Our
I
pleasure.
loved it. And I always ask everybody, because I'm on a mission to redefine diva as a positive thing, always. So what word comes to mind for you when you guys think of diva?
Passion.
Passion. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, absolutely passion.
James.
Celebration.
Ooh! Oh my gosh, these are great notes to end on. Thank you.
Passionate celebration.
Oh,
right?
this has been so much. This has been a celebration for me, and I know that we are all very passionate about art and music and collaboration. It's why we're here. It's why we're doing the show, and it's how we all got connected. So thank you so much for being here. Check out the
pleasure.
book, The Living the Dream.
Thank you.
Where are you going to be performing next?
Hawaii, actually.
Ooh.
With the Hawaii Performing Arts Festival coming up in June, so you'll have to fly to the
Oh,
islands.
well, we'll have to make that happen.
We're doing Obradors, actually.
Oh,
So-
great.
Are you have anything coming up on the horizon?
I just flew back on a red eye because I was in Salt Lake City with meetings about this film of Carmen Inside Out.
Nice.
So that's why I'm a little.
No, you were perfect.
I'm a little caffeinated today, let's say.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to see the film. Good luck in Hawaii, and I can't wait to see what you guys do next. You're fabulous. You're superstars. Thank you so much. And as always, thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, here's to hitting all your high notes. Take care. Bye-bye.